if you don't give any sort of explanation or understanding of why people are voting for Trump, and all you do is you label him a fascist, obviously I think that's going to lead people in your audience to assume that people voting for him are voting for him because they want the fascist, and therefore there's no way to convince those people, there's no way to win those people over in a debate or in a conversation, and the only alternative is through violence.
I agree that it's bad rhetorical strategy, which is I don't do it, but everything you just said is true. People that support Donald Trump do support fascism. They're just too stupid to realize it. That is absolutely a factual matter.
Okay, so at that point, we're just...
God. That is unhealthy and blind and ignores the reality of personality differences and the psychology of moral foundations like Jonathan Haidt's work. Conservatives and liberals literally view the world differently, and so they appeal to different things.
And so I've told you a little bit about the things that distinguish liberals from conservatives, right? The conservatives are high in conscientiousness, especially orderliness, and low in trade openness. I think that the fundamental political question, and I think this is why the temperaments align across these political dimensions, is whether the borders between things should be open or closed. You see this reflected worldwide right now in the arguments about immigration, because the liberal types are saying open the gates, and the conservatives are saying wait, you don't know what you're inviting in. And you might say, well, who's right? And the answer is you don't know, because sometimes the right answer is open the gates. These are interesting people. We could trade with them. We could learn from each other.
By the way, I want people to come in. I want tremendous numbers of people to come in. And we're going to have that big, beautiful door in the wall. But you know what? They have to come in through a process. They have to come in legally.
And sometimes the answer is don't bother. What's going to come in is going to wipe you out and kill you.
Open borders.
Open borders.
That's a Koch brothers proposal. The
Really?
idea, of course. I mean, that's a right-wing proposal which says essentially there is no United States.
But it would make a lot of the global poor richer, wouldn't it?
And it'd make everybody in America poor. Then you're doing away with the concept of a nation state.
So you're stuck. It's like, how the hell are you going to reconcile that problem? And the answer is, well, we reconcile it temperamentally, roughly speaking. So half the people are temperamentally wired up to say, no, let's keep the damn boxes closed. Took a long time to pack everything in there and to get it into order. And the liberals say, well, wait a minute, you don't know if you've got things in the right boxes to begin with. The things that you're keeping in there are getting stale and old, and maybe we need some new ideas and new people to rejuvenate the situation. That's political discussion. And the political discussion has to proceed because there's no way of solving that problem except by discussing it.
And I think Destiny's just projecting his own experiences with conservatives about how they're uneducated and stupid, because if you actually think there are no educated Trump supporters, I mean, you're as delusional as people who think everyone who voted for Bernie Sanders is a communist.
Is calling them stupid a good way to win them over in a political fight?
Generally, no. That's why I don't usually call them stupid.
Okay, well, you just did.
I did now because we're having a frank conversation. I will have a frank conversation. The way that I appeal to Republicans, you call it empathy. I call it treating people like retarded 4-year-olds. That's how I reach a conservative. I've got to be incredibly patient. I have to be incredibly kind. I've got to pretend. I can't even pretend I'm talking to my son.
Look,
it is condescending because they're fucking retarded.
What I'm talking about.
They don't believe in vaccines. They don't believe in climate change. They don't believe in science. They don't believe in academia. Half of them don't think we went to the fucking moon. They don't think that the election. How the fuck else am I?
Half of conservatives don't believe we went to the moon? I get that's a rhetorical point. He's just trying to emphasize the fact that there is a non-insignificant minority of people on the right who are very foolish, which is of course the case, and that can also be said of the left. This is kind of sad because Destiny has an IQ of 190,000, and yet IQ does not correlate to wisdom. I don't know what Destiny's personal experience is in terms of, does he have friends who are conservative? Probably not. Probably everyone he hangs out with, which he streams like 12 hours a day, doesn't he? So he doesn't really get outside much. But like, here's what I think about Destiny. I think he does not have principles. I think he does what he enjoys. He is very wired to enjoy intellectual conflict and the discussion of ideas. He enjoys kind of putting himself out there as the troublemaker and the contrarian in a lot of ways. So he, like you said, he's not concerned with winning people over because Destiny isn't fundamentally concerned about uniting people because he's not concerned about the issues. He enjoys playing video games and streaming and talking about it. Because if he was really worried about the problems that the country is facing, why would you act in such a self-evidently repulsive manner that he himself acknowledges is not a good way to win people over?
How the fuck else am I supposed to treat these people? Yeah, of course they're fucking retards. But yeah, you treat them like that. You be kind, you be patient, you be empathetic, and you do what you can. But at the end of the day, I believe in the things that I do for good reason. And it's not like I'm going to sit here and pretend that me and a conservative have the same factual standing on every single issue we debate. That's insane. It's literally...
That's fine. You don't have to pretend that anyone has the same factual standing on any issue. This is just very angry, and I think he's calling upon his personal experiences. Like, I have animosity towards narcissistic left-wing people because I have personal experiences with them, and I have animosity towards the far-right people because I have personal experience with them. So I get that he's drawing upon a personal animosity, but he's not integrating it very well into his worldview. He's just letting it possess him and say very stupid things.
There's also situational rhetoric. Like, I guess where I'm confused is, like, obviously if Hassan, Packman, and Cedar are saying, listen, when you're having a conversation with a conservative or conservative voter, instead of trying to appeal to them and, apply some situational empathy, whatever, you should just call them fascist or fascistic supporters. Yeah, that would be incredibly stupid. But again, it's about situational rhetoric. These people are also speaking to an audience much like yourself, right? And so it makes sense that in certain contexts, they would describe the Republican Party as they just genuinely, bluntly understand it. And then when they're face to face with a Republican voter, they may say something else, or they may couch the language or use different rhetoric. I don't think
there's a difference between crafting your rhetoric to the audience that you're talking to and being two-faced. So if you're like Destiny and you say all conservatives are retarded, and then you like, oh, when I'm talking to you, oh, but this isn't that. It's like, well, then you're just being two-faced. Versus if I'm talking to progressives, I'm going to start off by saying, I agree with all of you people about how the religious right are acting like a bunch of theocratic fascists. It's creepy. Matt Walsh says he wants to ban gay marriage. People are gaining steam. There's all kinds of crazy abortion laws. That is absolutely correct. And if I'm talking to a conservative audience, I'll say, yes, I agree with all of you that all of the weird shit going on with children is worthy of condemnation. But I believe both of those things. I'm not lying in one position or the other, but I am choosing what I emphasize, at least at the beginning of the conversation. That's very different from being two-faced, which is what it sounds like Destiny is being and admitting. I wouldn't say this to conservatives as he's on a public show that is going to be able to be viewed by, theoretically, anyone who disagrees with him. Again, I don't think he is interested at all in solving the problems he cares about. I think he's more interested in discussing them for the purpose of entertainment.
I think that, number one, I don't think that's hypocritical. Number two, I don't think that that's anything unique to the left or unusual. I'm so confused. To me, I just don't understand what the issue is here. And I honestly don't think that we disagree too much, because again, I think Stephen and I also agree that it would be bad to just vilify wholesale Republican voters nonstop. But then it seemed like the goalpost was being moved.
Can I just make one point, and then we can move to questions?
Sure. Well, I need to respond to
Well, you can, but let me just make my point real quick. It won't take long.
Shut up, Sitch.
Like, you understand, if you have a conversation about black crime, you're going to have to be very sensitive in that conversation, because you don't want to create a stereotype, a negative stereotype, that like all blacks are criminals, okay? So I think all I'm saying is, like, your response there, someone could look at and say, what Destiny is saying is all conservatives are retarded. That would create a stereotype of conservatives as being retarded, which I think is unhelpful.
I agree. It is unhelpful that they're retarded.
So wait.
So hold on. Again, this is comedy. Remember, as a comedian, I can tell when other fellow comedians are doing the same thing. Retreating into comedy. Well, it's just a joke. I don't really care about actually. The issues that I talk about are for aesthetic purposes. Meaning, I genuinely enjoy the intellectual discussion of ideas, which is like, that's something I believe in too. And arguably, that's what a lot of what I do. I'm not going to pretend that all of the time I spend in this space is because I'm reaching some unifying conclusion. It's like, it's because I find this interesting and I'm lazy and undisciplined and I'm putting off other things outside of my life. But I think Destiny's doing it to a much different degree, because I don't think he is fundamentally oriented towards making a positive change. I think he's interested in pure cold rationality, just saying what he thinks is true as his logical brain takes him there, which is like valuable, but this is where the limits are.
Let me be clear. Are you saying all conservatives are retarded? Look,
if you support Donald Trump, you either have a mental disability or you need antipsychotics. Yes. If you support Donald Trump, there's something wrong with you. Or you're not American.
There are plenty of
This is the exact same thing as conservatives who say all Democrats are evil. If you voted for Joe Biden, you're evil, you're bad, you're this and that. It's like, holy shit, no nuance, blind to your own internal issues if you really are going to project that hard and say everyone who disagrees with me on this issue, tens of millions of them, they're all mentally ill or psychotic.
There are plenty of never Trumpers. There are plenty of conservatives that didn't support Trump. There are plenty of conservatives trying to get him.
And there are probably some conservatives that I would agree with more than especially fucking progressives these days. That's possible.
Okay, well, you're throwing those conservatives under the bus when you say all
No, hold on.
conservatives
This
are
whole
retarded,
time,
so.
I've explicitly been talking about Donald Trump supporters. When we're talking about supporting Donald Trump, the actions that he's taking, Republicans broadly are science denialists in policy positions, but I'm sure there are some conservatives out there that I can probably break bread with, or we have like major agreements in a lot of places, but they just like low taxes or something. Sure. Again, none of us disagree with the rhetorical strategy, but at the end of the day, you have to be able to call a spade a spade. The reason why I'm able to make any headway when you talk about black crime is because actually I am willing to own uncomfortable positions. Black people do commit more crime than other people in the United States. And you can play the games of like, oh, it's all institutional bias and it's systemic racism and blah, 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 blah. And like, yeah, those things factor into it. But if you're not willing to, admit that black people do commit more crime than other races in this country, you can't even get the conversation off the ground. And
yeah, but you're sensitive.
Yeah, that's true, but that's very different from saying conservatives are retarded. I think I don't see the connection there. I don't think Adam was making as good of a point as it sounded initially, at least to me.
About the stereotype,
people
though.
see, I'm sensitive, but that doesn't keep me from owning the fact. And people on the right appreciate that. They're like, wow,
well, you
Jesse
should be
said some harsh
sensitive about the
truths.
stereotype.
But then as soon as I start criticizing somebody that doesn't believe in dinosaurs or doesn't think climate change is real, while fucking Phoenix is literally melting into the fucking earth, like, no, I think at some point, I agree. You can't be mean to people, and I try to be nice to people when I go on shows. I'm nice and I'm kind and blah, blah, blah. But that doesn't mean that you can't ever say like, yeah, listen, if you support Donald Trump, you're kind of supporting a fascist. Maybe that's some behavior that's worth analyzing or worth reflecting on.
That is very different from you're retarded or mentally ill or psychotic. This is what I'm talking about. It's all rhetoric. A lot of it's rhetoric. I like a lot of what Destiny does. I don't know him at all as a person, so I cannot honestly make judgments about his character. I can make inferences, but it seems mostly rhetoric and less substance.
So Adam, is
so often.
Let's just
even obligated?
Well, no, it's just, and I hate to go in the whataboutism range, but just the whole, there's been a lot of science denialism on the right historically. I don't think any side gives a shit about science. People just use science and facts when it supports them, and when it doesn't support them. There's a host of science denialism on the left. The left's position broadly, there's a bunch of people on the left that believe in this blank slate insanity. There's a bunch of people on the left that do not believe in evolution in terms of that evolution has any effect on people's behavior, especially from a gendered perspective. So I don't like the categorization that it's just one side that doesn't believe in science. No one believes in science.
Do you think there are any meaningful degrees?
2 seconds response. There are definitely some things that the left gets wrong on science denialism or whatever, I'm sure, but it is not even remotely comparable. They live in different worlds of factual denialism. It's not even close.
I don't know about that. There are literal 13 and 14-year-olds getting their breasts surgically removed, and it's at the point where criticizing it could like make you feel uncomfortable as a normal ass person. So no, that's nonsense. Damn, Destiny. Pure cold rationality. This is what happens. I don't know what goes on inside his head or inside his personal life, but he made it to the enlightened centrist tier list, so he got so far, but he's not moving up past C if he keeps spouting out this nonsense. That's my opinion, at least. Good luck. And Godspeed.